I'm excited to talk to all of you and I guess share a little bit about myself and how I got to where I am. I guess it all started back when I was in college, and I was doing a major. I was doing German and business management, and I thought, this is really cool, except I'm not sure I want to do this the rest of my life. And so I went to the film department, and I said, look, I'm having a lot of fun throwing parties. Actually, I was throwing parties for these apartment complexes. Yeah, so I was throwing these parties, and these parties were this apartment complex wanted me to bring a bunch of people there. So I would throw these creative parties, and I'd get a crew together, and they would be fun and themed, and they took a ton of organization, a ton of planning, and it was really satisfying and gratifying to have everybody come, and like 2,000 people show up, and all these sponsors, and the client or the apartment complex was like, that was an amazing party. We had all these people come, and we had like 2,000 people here, and they loved it. And so it turned into more and more jobs. And I thought, oh man, in business management and especially German, I'm not going to get that opportunity. And so I thought, what can I do to get that opportunity? So my senior year, I was taking all the classes I needed to graduate, but I went to the film department and the animation department and added more classes to what I was taking. And I said, I want to be a visual effects producer. And the film department was like, I don't know what that is, but sure, you can audit these classes. And so I learned what I needed to learn from the film department and animation department. And then I moved to LA right after I graduated, and it was the classic Hollywood tale where I signed up with a temp agency, and my first job was in a mailroom. So I had to wear a suit and a tie every day, and they locked me in the basement, and I was just sorting mail all day long. And I thought, why do I have to wear a suit and tie? And why did I need a college degree for this? It was an interesting job because I was reading scripts. Like people would submit scripts to this talent agency, and I would write a one-page summary, read 90, 100 pages, 150 pages of script, and write a one-page summary so the talent agent could decide whether that was a good enough script to, push up the line and try to develop further. And it wasn't very satisfying, but it was my first job, right? And I thought, oh man, this is where everybody gets their start. Steven Spielberg started in a mailroom. And on my lunch breaks, I would go and I would interview at these big visual effects houses like Rhythm and Hues and Digital Domain and Sony. And finally, when I went to Digital Domain, I interviewed, and they were impressed that I had the knowledge that I did because I had taken all those extra classes in the film department and in the animation department my senior year. And so they were like, hey, you know this stuff. Not a ton of people know a lot about visual effects before they get on the job. And I said, well, I've had a year or so of studying it and learning it and creating a project. And they said, all right. And so it was this intense 3 to 4 days of me waiting to hear back, but they finally got the job. And that's where I started on the movie Zoom. Has anyone heard of the movie Zoom? It's got Tim Allen. Yeah, oh, thanks, Benjamin. I'm glad you saw that one. So yeah, Zoom. It was Tim Allen, Chevy Chase, and Courtney Cox, and it was about these kids superheroes. And I thought, oh man, this is my first Hollywood film. I've made it. It was an absolute disaster. It was such a boring film. It was so weird. They fired the director. The producer was trying to run the show, and producers and directors are different people and kind of different sides of the brain, and so it was really hard to work on at first. And I thought all this glamour of Hollywood, where you're like, oh, it's going to be great, and it's all this creative stuff, and it turned out it wasn't. There's a lot more behind the scenes that happen in a movie than you think, and I actually, I liked the movie because it came out, because I've always just kind of wanted to be a superhero myself. And I think it's perfect for kids. But it was different than I thought. And so it was kind of this wake up call of, wow, I just thought that, Hollywood was red carpets and photo ops and, these great parties where it was with celebrities and all this stuff. And it turned out it's a little different than that. It's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of creativity, and yeah. So that was my first movie. Then I stayed at Digital Domain. I worked on a couple other movies, and then I got to work on Transformers. And that was really cool because Transformers is, I used to play with Transformers when I was a kid. So I was like, yes, I finally get to play with the real thing, and to see Optimus Prime transform that first time, I was like, this is a childhood dream coming to life right now. And on that, I got to coordinate the show, and that was it was so awesome to see my name scroll up on the credits on that film, and that was the first time that I was super stoked to say, yes, I'm in Hollywood, and I'm working my way up through the visual effects channels. So after Transformers, I worked on. Oh, and just a side note, I got to be, I'll have to show you reference when you guys all come into my office. So I'm not sure how to slap a video in there or if I could find it quickly, but I got to be animation reference for Frenzy, which is the little like cell phone one or Discman one, So they had me jump off the box and they're like, okay, act like you're a robot and transform. This is the part when in Hoover Dam when he gets his head back. And he comes back to life after he gets near the Energon cube. So that was like 2 hours, 3 hours of my day was I had to act like this robot so that the animation team could use my movements to match in the film. So I wish I would have got the credit for Frenzy in the film, but I got a different one. Okay, so that was Digital Domain, and I worked there for a few years on a handful of films. But what was interesting about that is films are just these huge projects, and I got to influence this much of the project, or maybe this much, but I wanted to see how everything worked. And so I left Digital Domain and I went to a company called Radium, which was later bought out by Real Effects. And I started to produce commercials for them. So Target commercials, Energizer, T-Mobile, Taco Bell, all sorts of commercials that you see on TV, right? And the great thing about that experience was I got to see how to get a client, how to do a pitch deck, how to do a bid and say go back and forth on the pricing of that, manage the team, and then finish the project, deliver it to the client, and say, great, we wrapped it up, and then this was our profit margin, and that's how well we did. And that was such an awesome experience because I got that whole picture, and I was like, yes, okay, that's what I wanted. I wanted to see that. And so after working there for a few years, I got this call from my friend who was in New Zealand, and he said, hey, there's a job opening up in the animation department here. There's this little film called Avatar that's coming out. And I said, oh, that sounds like it'll be a bomb. Jeez. And I'm just kidding. I was super excited. And he's like, why don't you apply? And so I said, yeah, I'll apply. I sent him my resume, and they looked it over, and I think I had 5 interviews because it was a big deal for, to move across the world, and they want to make sure that you're a good fit. And so before they bring you all the way across the world, I think it's like a 13-hour flight to get over there. And you usually skip a day when you do fly over there. So after 5 interviews, they said, great, you're hired. And so I left LA and picked everything up into like 2 suitcases and moved to New Zealand. And I got to work on Avatar like right away. So James Cameron, the giant blue cat-like people on the Pandora, that was my first movie over there. And then I got to work on, let's see, what was next? I think worked on Avatar DVD, and then, which is like just a bunch of bonus scenes, which they let me produce the animation for. Then I went to Gulliver's Travels, A-Team. Let's see. Then I think it was like 1010, Avengers, Man of Steel, The Hobbit. I think I got, I think that's all of them. So my job was to manage the animation department. So there was, like on Avatar, we had 125 animators. I did work on Extinct. That's coming next. So James Cameron was the director and John Landau was the producer on Avatar, right? So James Cameron would give us notes, and we would say, James Cameron would say, hey, change the way the lip says scown, and we're like, okay. And he wanted more like stickiness to the lips or something like that, right? So we had to take those notes and make it look as real as possible, because that's the director's job, is he wants to make it look as real as possible. And so as VFX crew members, we are changing that and iterating, and sometimes we would do like 150 versions of the animation of the face, or of Jake or Neytiri like jumping onto that banshee and jumping off the cliff, because all of that isn't real, and we use motion capture, and when you come in, I'll show you some motion capture stuff and all these other fun stuff, tech that we use to create these effects. So that was my job, is I would schedule out the team. I would say, hey Benjamin, you need to get this shot done by Friday. Angela, you have until Monday. These are the notes from James Cameron. You got to get that done, and let's look at it with our supervisor before then, and So, yeah. Thanks. I can see Benjamin's camera. He's taking notes on what I'm saying. Perfect. So that's kind of what my job was. And so as I got more experience and learned more things, it was my job, and they kind of came to me to help fix these problems. So I look at this big show of like Tintin, right, which is this movie right here, and it was like 2,200 visual effects shots. And it was my job to figure out that schedule, look at it and say, oh man, we've got to figure out how to get this done on time and under budget. So we figured out a bunch of shortcuts and duplicate animations and all sorts of stuff, so that so we made a good film and made Steven Spielberg happy. And at the end, well, here's the highlight of my career that Jen alluded to. On The Hobbit, they so on New Zealand's version of eBay, they put this thing out. They said, this advertisement said, if you're 6'3" or taller and athletic, come to this studio at this time on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. And I was like, I think I know what this is for. And so I went, and if they wouldn't let you in the door unless you were taller than 6'3". And so I got let in the door, and then they took all my measurements for like my chest and my head and my legs for my seam, and I was like, all right, this is really cool. And then they took you into this room where you did a bunch of tumbling, like like jump over a chair, or do a front roll, jump up onto a table and back down 3 times fast, and they were just kind of testing to see how athletic I was. And at the end of that, they said, you know what, we really like your look, and we want you to be an elf in the Hobbit movies. And I was like, what? Awesome. And so unfortunately it didn't work out, because I was in the middle of the Avengers movie and producing that. And so I was like, oh, I can come down. I just got to finish this this director meeting with Joss Whedon, and they're like, what? You're talking with Joss Whedon? I was like, yeah, I'm managing the Avengers. And so they said, I'm sorry, we need somebody that's more available. And so I missed my chance to be an elf. But like 2 months later, after the Avengers had wrapped up, they did the same thing for orcs. And so I got to be a Gundabad orc and be on set and fight dwarves and elves. And, I got my own sword and my spear. And every morning I dressed up and I got to get there at 5 a.m. And by 7 a.m. I had, put on all my body armor and my boots and got my weapons ready. And then they would send me to breakfast. I put my makeup on and then my mask on, and they send us to breakfast. So it's actually one day it was pretty funny. Gandalf, Sir Ian McKellen was there, and he ended up sitting at the table next to me, and I was this orc trying to eat my oatmeal through my orc mask, and I had just spilled oatmeal all over my mask. And Ian McKellen was like, "Oh, you've got oatmeal all over your face, Mr. Orc." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sorry," because you couldn't talk very well. But that was a really fun moment for a few weeks. I got to be an orc and be in that movie. So after New Zealand, I came back and I worked with my brother and published a book with him and helped him out with that. And then I got a job with the motion picture studio here and got to produce 3 films there. And then I started my own company because I wanted to do augmented reality and virtual reality. And just for way of explanation, if you guys aren't familiar with that, virtual reality is where you take a headset and you kind of put it on, and it transforms you into like a different world, And then augmented reality is where you can look through the lens of your phone, and it'll be a different, you could put like a dinosaur on your desk or something like that, or make a ball. So something fake appear in the real world through the lens of your phone. So we've done a lot of that. And one of the flagship things that we have done is create our own world. We're trying to recreate history that doesn't exist anymore. And so you can teleport yourself back to that time period. And we've started off with ancient Jerusalem from 2,000 years ago. And we worked with some scholars and archaeologists, and we used all the skills that we did to, make Avatar and Avengers and all those worlds. And now we've created something that you can actually get in and explore. And, you can pick up objects and learn about them. You can see people interacting and doing their daily life and all that stuff. And so that's what we're focusing on. That's our own IP. And at the same time, at Fourth Wall Effects, we take on jobs and create content for businesses, So I saw someone chatted about Extinct. We worked on the pilot episode of Extinct. We worked on a scary movie that just came out in theaters that made, I think, $50 million. We worked on a short film called Reign of Judges. We did a 3D avatar of Jimmer Fredette, the basketball player, for an app. Anyway, that's kind of what we're doing with Fourth Wall. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to talk about, Jen, but I guess that's kind of my life story.
It's a great life story. Do you have any advice for them? A lot of our students are starting up their own businesses or kind of starting to explore that. And so do you have advice as an entrepreneur that you would share with them as students and kids?
Yeah, sure. I think as at the stage that a lot of you guys are at is perfect to just keep developing that idea, and keep trying different things. As we've gone through this process of growing this company and hiring more people and creating our own intellectual property that we can sell, we've tried things and kind of deviated, from that. And then we learned something and then kind of pivoted there and then pivoted there. And now I think I'd say don't be afraid to or just understand that you're going to learn along the way. And it's just going to take some mistakes and you might fail, but fail quickly and then learn from that and keep going forward. Cause I think all of us have that desire internally to create and make something that we can share with other people. So keep going.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Next question from Joshua. What is the hardest part of running your own business in this industry?
Yeah. So in visual effects and just in general in creative industries, it's very hard to define what the end product is. If you looked at concept art of Thanos at the beginning versus what was in Infinity War at the end, they'd be really different. And so when you're trying to figure out what that costs, someone's like, hey, can you make me Thanos? And you're like, sure. And then they say, great, how much will that cost? I think that's the hardest thing because it's a creative process. And so you're kind of discovering along the way. And so creating legal contracts and bids and understanding the scope and walking through that process with the client and helping them understand, how that works is a hard part because, I love to be creative, but also when you're running a business, it's hard to just not say, great, we'll just work on this forever. And you can't do that when you're running a business. Walt Disney said it best when he said, everyone needs deadlines and everyone needs to finish the project at some point. So, yeah.
Great advice. What did you want to be when you were 8 years old?
That's, I remember drawing pictures of a fireman, of me hanging on the back of a fire truck. And I don't know what that involved, but I just thought that would be pretty fun. I like adventure and I like going out there and doing some fun stuff. So, and being an entrepreneur, I guess is kind of like being a firefighter. You put out fires and you're hanging on by the seat of your pants as the truck drives around. Yeah.
That's cool. Hey, Molly wants to know, what was your favorite movie to work on?
My favorite movie to work on was, I think it was the Avengers. We figured out a good way so that, so typically in visual effects, you work tons of overtime. And it's some, like on Tintin, I actually worked 2 100-hour weeks. Oh my gosh. And it was kind of tiring after a while. But, we were up there around 80 to 90 hours a week. And so it was very, very tiring. But on the Avengers, we only worked 50-hour weeks the entire time. And it was kind of a scheduling victory for me because everybody was having so much fun animating Iron Man. And because this job can be really stressful, I like to make it fun. And so we got Iron Man mask and the hammer of Thor, and we would it was a foam one, and so we just throw it around the room and just make jokes. And people were making Iron Man cookies, and we had a lot of fun with that one. And we delivered on time. It was under budget, and Joss Whedon was loving our work, and it was basically like playing superheroes every day, and it was such a good crew. So that was probably the most fun for me was the Avengers.
What's an Iron Man cookie, like in the shape of?
Yes, it was actually cool. So it was frosted with red and yellow frosting, and then they put little gummies for the eyes and for his triangle there. It's just delicious.
All right. How do you make yourself stand out from competition?
Yeah, so I think the best way to make yourself stand out is to be I made it a point to not add more stress to a production, and if you can be one step ahead of the production and keep it moving forward so that it's running efficiently and going, and keep it lighthearted so not to add more stress, then that's what's going to make people are going to remember you for that, like the people in New Zealand, because we had Iron Man cookies and Thor hammers flying all over the room, and we still delivered on time and under budget, and it was an awesome product. People were like, all right, that guy's good at his job, and let's keep him, giving him more responsibility and larger roles. So do those things. And that's also, I'm 6'6", so just for the pun of standing out is pretty good. If you can grow to be 6'6", then that's also a good one. I'm just kidding.
That's good advice. Okay, Angela wants to know, what do you use, or what is your favorite program for digital art creation?
Oh, there's so many. That's really hard. I think my favorite is I think I like Nuke the best, and if I were to get back into the art side of things, I would pick Nuke because that's a compositing software. So it's like After Effects, but infinitely more powerful. And that's it's called Nuke. So it's a very expensive software, but it's the standard one that everyone uses on like all the major films. It'll be easy to show you, but After Effects is basically a timeline where you like slide in segments of effects onto the plate or onto the footage, right? And Nuke is a node-based thing, which means you have a bunch of squares that do different effects, and you tie these lines together so that you have complete manipulation of that footage, if that makes sense.
Okay, Eleanor wants to know, how important is networking in this industry, and what would you suggest to strengthen people networks while improving one's craft? I didn't say that very well.
Yeah, it's a classic Hollywood thing. It's not what you know, but who you know. And it's a big thing in Hollywood, and I don't really like the schmoozing and the networking in that sense of just going to an event for the sole purpose of networking with someone and schmoozing them. That was my job in LA when I was producing commercials, and sometimes we'd go out at night to a club or out to dinner or whatever, and just talk and the whole point was to schmooze them so we could get their job, and I found it, for my personality, it's more effective just to be friends and genuinely interested in what other people are doing, because I think everybody's got a pretty cool story, and most likely doing pretty cool things with their life. So if you're just genuinely interested in listening to what they're doing, I think I think you're gonna make big headway in networking. To add to that as well, I think now in the digital age, you kind of got to create a niche for yourself in like on a LinkedIn or something to really say, hey, I'm this type of person and these are my skills. And then you kind of, LinkedIn almost becomes like a blog for you, where you're like, hey, look at this. I created this, or this is an interesting thing happening in my realm. And the people that have done that have been very successful in going to the studios and getting the jobs that they've wanted, because they're creating that brand or that name for their craft and for them as a person.
What was the hardest movie you worked on?
They're all hard for different reasons, but I think the hardest movie I worked on was probably this most recent one that came out that made 50 million in theaters. And that one was hard because the client was in New York, and they delayed the schedule by about 3.5 months. And so, which is a huge hit. So, when you're running a studio or a business, you say, great, we're going to allot this amount of time for your project. And that time came and went, and they didn't really give us the opportunity to work on we need footage in order to work. And so they didn't really turn over that footage. And so we kind of finished the shots that they gave us and then didn't have anything else to do. And so I could see that happening. So I had to hurry and go get extra work. And then when they came back, like around Christmas time, they're like, hey, can you finish these? And I was like, wait, what? No, I mean, we're all done. But you try to balance those out. And so that was a really hard film, because it was kind of their first foray into visual effects film, and it was just a big learning curve for them. But in the end, we got it done, and it turned out to be a really successful movie. So yeah.
The best and worst parts of this job are?
I think the worst part is that because it is a creative thing, and when you're running the business, you got to keep in mind that it is a business, and so you kind of can't explore forever and be a free artist where you just get to paint until your heart's content. There are deadlines, but I think when you do follow those deadlines and you plan along the way in order to hit all those deadlines, the end product can be really, really rewarding, because it's something that everyone sees on the screen or on YouTube or wherever, and everyone can see that, and it's something that you can be proud of, So
how does advertising your kind of business work?
A lot of what we do is by word of mouth. We're not too big of a studio. We're here in Utah. Jen, you've been to our studio. It's we can't fit 1,000 people in our office, or 800, or maybe not even 25. We do mostly by word of mouth. So we'll post things on social media now and then, but we'll really take care of the people that do hire us out to create something for them. And then at the end, we'll ask them for a referral, or naturally that referral will come to be like, oh, I worked with Fourth Wall and they're great. You guys should look at them and work with them as well. So
are you going to be working on any upcoming movies?
Right now, I don't have any movies in our projects coming in the future. Right now, we're focusing mostly on the virtual reality of ancient history of worlds. So we want to recreate, Jerusalem. We're going to do the Tabernacle of Moses. We're going to do the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Gettysburg Address, some moments in World War I, all of that stuff. And so when everyone comes on the 19th, we want to put all of you in the headset and give you a chance to kind of explore these worlds for 5 or 10 minutes each. So that's our main focus, is going into virtual reality and augmented reality. It'll be really exciting for everybody because your brain really starts to tell you that you're in this virtual world, and so when Jen ran through this virtual wall, she was like, whoa. And when I put my mom up on this tall tower on the edge, she actually stammered back and fell over because she's like, whoa, I don't like heights. It's 300 feet up. And so VR, if you've never done VR, it's a really fun medium, and I think you'll all enjoy it.
Yeah. How do you find a healthy balance between work and family in this industry? The 100-hour work week sounds crazy. It is.
100-hour work weeks is crazy. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm doing this out in Utah, because I have 3 kids now, and if there were any of those studios, I would be working 60 to 80-hour weeks still, because that's just how the industry kind of goes. And so there are a few studios, and Fourth Wall being one of them, that's limited to 40 to 45 hours a week. So that's what we're doing is so we just balance the workload, and we when we're at work, we work hard, and when we're at home, we play hard, I guess. And by having that balance, it allows you to, just by focusing and being where you are when you're there, really helps you find that balance.
Great advice. Okay, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to unmute everybody. If everybody just wants to say thank you to Jarom and tell them goodbye, let's do that now.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. That was really fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you on the 19th.